Right on to the real, much love to these haters. It's time for the Lakers, it's time for the Lakers. Right on to the real, much love to these haters. It's time for the Lakers, it's time for the Lakers. Right on to the real, much love to these haters. It's time for the Lakers, it's time for the Lakers. Man, what is happening, my YouTube family? Of course, it is your boy B New. I'm coming at you on this Friday. And first and foremost, let me send out positive vibrations and blessings to everybody, as always, as I do about this time. Now, with all that being said, and y'all apologize if it's a little loud. I'm on a rough patch of road right now, so I'm gonna try to raise my voice a little bit. Tennessee usually better about these roads, man. But anyway, we all know on yesterday, the Lakers trade deadline came and went, and nothing happened at all. And many expected to see a trade regarding maybe Westbrook and a John Wall for the Houston Rockets. However, we all know the Lakers were unwilling to part with a 2027 draft pick and Russell Westbrook. And I know a lot of people in Laker Nations are upset about that. But me, myself, personally, I don't blame Rob Pelinka. I don't blame the Lakers at all, one bit, for that, because the Lakers already don't have a 2023, 2024, 2025, and a 2026 first round draft pick. So that is a lot of time to go without trying to build a young core through the draft, and especially with a lot of young up and coming players. And we can see a lot of people that are benefiting now from the draft in just recent years, because there's some great players coming out the draft. And I know sometimes it's hit or miss, but the Lakers tend to do a pretty good job in scouting as well as in drafting. And because they gave away so much to get Anthony Davis, they are not going to have a draft pick for quite some time. And if you give up the 2027 to get a John Wall, who, by the way, is oftentimes injured, that means you're trying to buy in for this season. But if you get John Wall this season, what are the Lakers really going to do? Are they going to take the next step? Because everybody who wanted to blame Russell Westbrook, you saw after losing to Portland the other day, the problem is greater than Russell Westbrook. It's just not all Russell Westbrook, even though, you know, you can lay the blame to some of these losses on Russell Westbrook as far as his turnovers and things like that. But I know everybody gonna say, oh man, you making the coach the scapegoat, blah, blah, blah. But I've been consistent for the past 2.5 years. If you watch this channel faithfully, and you know, and you listen to the morning show every day, how much I was on Frank Vogel. Not just this year. Please go back and watch my tapes from last season. I was roasting the hell out of Frank Vogel every day with his pathetic coaching job, the way he did with Montrezl Harrell. You know, he never knew how to get the rotations right. It just seems like he just is clueless a lot of times when it comes to matchups and things like that. And he doesn't seem like he can motivate and get the best out of his players. And as a coach, you need to be able to put your players in positions to be successful, as well as motivate them, even though the millions of dollars should be motivation enough, and having some kind of pride in what you're doing, as well as a spirit of competitiveness. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think firing Frank Vogel would be the best thing the Lakers could do, just because I feel like sometimes teams need a breath of new life in them. And you see that a lot of times in the NFL and the NBA, where that's concerned, where even the Sacramento Kings, you know, they go through that when they just got an interim coach. You've seen that with Houston Rockets, as well as a lot of other teams, you know, that they can just bring a breath of new life into the team and just breathe that into them. And I'm not necessarily saying, you know, stick with Fizdale, because if you hire a whole new coach and he has to bring in and hire his own coaching staff, that is a tough ask, but only 27 or 28 games remaining left in the season. So quite honestly, I don't see it happening unless Fizdale was to step in, or either Handy step in, which I would probably rather see Handy, even though he's more of a coach that coaches technique and gets people up to par, you know, starting off in the G League, and, you know, just him having winning championships with Cleveland and Toronto. I think he's more than capable of doing the job. But at the same time, just hopefully that they can change up whatever it is that Vogel is doing with his rotations, because it has not been good. They have not been good. But at the end of the day, I think by the Lakers not making a move, that actually, just follow me out on this, actually, you're going to see some improved players, some improved play from the current players, especially younger players who thought that they could have been on the chopping block, such as a THT, who maybe wasn't playing up to his full potential. And not only that, I think the Lakers, and according to Rob Pelinka as well, if you listen to his conference call on yesterday regarding the trade that he did with, I forget who it was, but he basically said, you know, they're going to look to the buyout market, and there's going to be a few players available in the buyout market. I'm not sure if Dennis Schroeder could be one of those players that he was traded to Houston. Not sure if he'll be waived or not, but there are some potential suitors for the Lakers. But also, let's not forget Kendrick Nunn. The Lakers were very high on Kendrick Nunn. The way he played in training camp, what they saw from him, we know he's more than capable of being a great scorer in this league and a decent defender in this league. And let me move out the way because people don't know how to drive and they're trying to hit me. But what I'm trying to say is, let the full team come together. The Lakers still have not had a chance to experience their full team. You know, LeBron missed 17 games. We know Anthony Davis missed, 27, 28 games. So that's a lot of games. And Russell Westbrook and LeBron and AD have only played together, 17 or 18 games. And they do have a winning record, although it's not a great record. But they still have to take time to mesh. And hopefully the coaching staff can figure out how they would like to stagger Westbrook's minutes, because I think he can still be an effective player if given the correct opportunities and paired with the right people. But when he's on the court with the LeBron James and they're both ball dominant players, that's not always going to be effective. So, you know, he doesn't, you know, I know they want to pay a bench player $45 million, but at the end of the day, LeBron is getting older and his minutes are up there. He's still third in the league in minutes to be at the age he at, which is ridiculous. So, you know, let Bron come out the first quarter a little bit earlier instead of him playing all the way down to the 4 or 5 minute mark. Let him come out in the 7 minute mark, the 6 minute mark. Just let him come out and establish something. Then let LeBron sit and let Westbrook and AD play the remainder of the quarter. Then bring LeBron back in the second quarter. There's so many different ways you can stagger the minutes without having Russ and LeBron on the court at the same time together. There's so many different ways you can do that. So I'm just not sure why coach still hasn't been able to figure that out. Please eliminate Trevor Ariza altogether. If Melo can come back and give you something on offense, I still think the Lakers have pieces. They just got to have the confidence too. And now that the trading deadline, just hear me out on it, has come and gone, that they may be feeling a lot more comfortable because they know the task at hand. They know, hey, look around you. This is who we got. This is who we about to go to war with. This is who we in the trenches with. This is who we in the foxhole with. So let's go ahead and get it started, get it, do what we need to do in order to shore up this season. Golden State didn't look too good against Utah on the other night. Not sure how many players will be available on the Lakers matchup for Saturday night. But as I predicted and told everybody, the Clippers were going to go on a free fall. Looking at that schedule that they had to go up against the Golden State Clippers, Utah, Dallas twice, and just within the week. So expect the Clippers to drop a couple of more games, and if the Lakers can put together a nice little winning streak, I still think they beat Utah earlier in this season. There's no reason for me to believe that they won't beat Utah again, that they can't beat Utah again when they did last time. And I want to say without Anthony Davis, and they played a hell of a game. And the Lakers beat Dallas early in the year without Anthony Davis, and they played a hell of a game. So it's all possible. They just have to be coached correctly, and the rotations have to be correct, and they have to be able to play good defense, which people say they're not capable of playing. They haven't been capable of playing in over 4 quarters. But if you look, they've played good defense, especially like in that fourth quarter of the what game against New York. They held them to 13 points in 1 quarter, and they've done that in multiple games to where they held teams to a very, very low margin, very low point output in particular quarters. So it can be done. What Vogel needs to do is see what was the personnel during those times, and that's who you need to have on the floor. You know, he's not doing good with his matchups, and what you might need to do is what won you the championship the first year. Let LeBron just play point. I mean, you got a 6'10", whatever LeBron is, point guard who can see over the defense and make plays. He damn near handled the ball all the time, and then just let Westbrook play off LeBron in the backcourt, and then when LeBron go to the bench, then let Westbrook take over the point guard duties. But of course, with Nunn coming back, you're going to have an additional point guard handler. I just feel like, you know, at the end of the day, if the Lakers can play the way they're capable of playing. But like the Milwaukee game, Anthony Davis taking 10 shots, that's unacceptable. And then the last game, against Portland. He only took 10 shots again. That's unacceptable. And like I said, that's falling on the coaching staff. Anthony Davis doesn't have that Kobe Bryant mentality where he's going to get down on the block and just demand the ball and demand it and demand it. So you have to put him in a position. Why are they not running plays? Why is the offense not running through your top 75 player? You understand what I'm saying? But, you know, as I said, there's still a couple of options in the buyout market, which means they would have to waive a player to free up a roster spot because they currently still are 15 deep. But at the end of the day, I think the Lakers still have a pretty good chance of making a scare in the playoffs. I don't care if it's Phoenix. I don't care who it is. I see Campaign had a lot of noise to talking about the Lakers, got the Lakers name all in his mouth and who people worried about. You talk a lot of jazz, but you haven't won a championship yet. You might be the best team right now, but one thing about it, they have plenty of continuity. They still have the same place, the same team in place. They still have the same coaching staff. So with continuity, a lot of times brings success. And you could look at a lot of teams around the league that have had pretty much the same roster that hadn't really had a full overhaul. And when the Lakers brought in 11 new players, you knew it was going to be difficult to mesh. And the only way to do that is if you have a damn good coach. And that's something that the Lakers simply do not have. But at the end of the day, you know, I keep saying I'm not worried, but after the Milwaukee game, I will say that I am, as far as the Lakers being able to challenge for a championship, because if they play like that, then there's no way possible. But for people who still don't think the Lakers can make the playoffs regardless of who coming up on them, then I feel to differ, because I beg to differ, because no team in the West still scare me in the 7-game series, because as long as you got LeBron, as long as you got Anthony Davis playing with the mentality of they're going to go out and get theirs every time, and Anthony Davis playing with the mentality of I'm going to protect this rim and I'm not going to allow people to score, then that's going to be a whole different story. Then you got to have people like THT step up his performance, which he has been looking a little bit better as of late, and you have to have Westbrook cut down on his turnovers and stagger the minutes with LeBron. But whatever the Lakers did, they didn't go crazy and end up giving up another draft pick, because at the end of the day, you know, they're trying to win a championship in the short window that LeBron has left, because we know Father Time has caught up with him. But at the end of the day, he's still a very viable option to help lead you to a championship team, as long as he has another viable option alongside him. And Anthony Davis is still that viable option. So at the end of the day, the Lakers still, you know, when Anthony Davis and LeBron in the playoffs, they won the championship the first year together. The second year, Anthony Davis was hurt, so we don't know what the end result could have been. So I'm going to still take my chances with them. I will touch on and say that Philly and Brooklyn made a hell of a deal yesterday. I don't know who was necessarily the winner of that. I say Philly is the winner, because think about it, they gave up a player who hadn't played. And if y'all can find that tweet that they tweeted out, it was hilarious. They compared their stats, all of James Harden stats, and then had Ben Simmons stats, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0. And that was pretty hilarious. And then it said 3-point LOL. Y'all got to find that. I might try to put it up if I can. That was hilarious. But I would say James Harden and Joel Embiid, that's going to be a pretty tough thing to stop. Even though they did get rid of Seth Curry, so that is some shooting that they got rid of. But I also want to say Brooklyn won that as well, because Brooklyn, they needed somebody in the paint to help shore up that paint alongside LaMarcus Aldridge, and they got that with the Andre Drummond, because that's the type player that Brooklyn needs, not anybody that spreads the floor in that regard, because they spread the floor enough with KD and now Seth Curry, which is going to be a hell of an addition to them. So at the end of the day, I think both teams got a lot better, addition by subtraction. And then with Ben Simmons playing that defense alongside Kevin Durant, I think they have just what they need. But for all the others who didn't see the draft, LeBron and Kevin Durant drafting the players, that was hilarious as well. We all know, if you didn't see it, James Harden was picked last, and LeBron had to cover his face to keep from laughing, because you could tell the disgust with KD that he was not going to pick Harden. He didn't want to have no parts of Harden. He'll probably never talk to Harden again. He probably felt like Harden backstabbed him regardless of what Kyrie was doing. He probably like, man, you bailed on me, homie. But at the end of the day, man, you know, it's Friday. The Lakers play tomorrow. The deadline passed. And guess what? I'm just like Lil Wayne. I ain't got no worries. I ain't got no worries, because as long as the Lakers can get into the playoffs, I still think they got a chance. And you can call it over exuberance. You can call it I'm crazy as hell. You can call it whatever you want to call it. But somehow, some way, I just feel it in my bones that when the Lakers get to the playoffs, that they're going to be a scare for anybody. You saw how well they played Memphis in Memphis. And that was with no Anthony Davis, if I'm not mistaken. And then when Memphis came back out to LA, that was a different story because I think they did put the beat down on them. But I'm just saying, on any given night, and if you have time and you match up against a team, the series are different than one game. You only have so much time to scout, watch film, because boom, you got another game the next day or in 2 days. So in a series, you get to lock in on that opponent and have a real strategy and then go from there. But at the end of the day, man, I got things I need to handle. It's TGIF to everybody. Man, I got much love for everybody, even for these haters. And as always, right on to the real. Much love to these haters, man. I'm out.